Coming up on this edition of High School Sports Weekly, presented by OS1 Sports Injury Clinic, we'll recap Week 11, the final week of the regular season in Alabama high school football.
That's right, and I got a chance to talk to referee Bob Shoulders about the referee shortage we have here in the state of Alabama.
Our athlete spotlight is going to be on Hoover track athlete Kyle Epperson.
And we will also hear from Hoover Athletic Director Andy Urban as he talks about the playoffs and protocols from the Alabama High School Athletic Association.
Speaking of that, we'll take a look at the brackets for the upcoming state playoffs as well. Stay with us as we get things started right after this. OS1 Sports Injury Clinic in Hoover is a proud partner of High School Sports Weekly. OS1 has fellowship-trained sports medicine physicians right here in your community. There's no appointment needed. Just drive up to the door. They've got X-ray and MRI on site. So now, being injured or having an orthopedic issue doesn't mean you need to be exposed to sick people. Avoid the hassle and time of going to an ER when you can get more specialized care in a more timely fashion at OS1. Open 7 days a week to serve you. It's OS1 Sports Injury Clinic, and find them online at bettersooner.com.
Welcome back to High School Sports Weekly, brought to you by OS1 Sports Injury Clinic. Chris, catch us up on the last couple of weeks of games that we may have missed.
Yeah, we can do that. We had Hoover and Thompson that wrapped up things since we were with you last in terms of Class 7A Region 3. Thompson, a big victory to claim the region title and finish the regular season undefeated. So an impressive stretch for them, to say the very least. They'll go in as the top seed from our region. But also this past week, while Thompson, Hoover, Hewitt, Trussville, Gadsden City were all off, and now for Gadsden City their season is done, you also had Oak Mountain dropping a decision to a Clay Chaltville team. Now that's down in classification. Clay Chaltville is one of the top 5 teams in the state in Class 6A, so no shame in that. Oak Mountain already assured of a playoff spot of their own. Also Vestavia able to get a win in Buddy Anderson's final game. They cruised to a 52-27 win over Shades Valley.
That's right. Is there any other story there, really? Great for them to get a victory, but Coach Anderson's last game, and from what I hear, the players hoisted him up on their shoulders afterwards, chanted MVP, and then, of course, after the game, he and Miss Linda, there's a viral video going on of dancing on the 50-yard line. So, what a send-off for an incredible coach. That
was very special indeed, and again, very fitting. Unfortunate, the Rebels didn't make the playoffs in his final year, but to finish on the field that's named for him and to claim the victory there, it was a wonderful way to wrap that up. Spain Park also finished their regular season in a big way. Probably the most exciting game in the state. In regulation, defeated Hueytown 63-62.
Right, what a high-scoring game. And, Spain Park never led until the huge defensive interception led by Michael Ogletree. That's when they were tied 56-56. And then Ogletree made multiple defensive stops. He's credited with really saving the day there and giving Bennett Meredith, the quarterback, and the Jags offense a chance to win the game.
Spain Park finishes their season on a high note. They wrap up at 4-6 on the year. And also a winning note for Tuscaloosa County. They're 3-7 on the year, but they beat Northridge 27-26.
Right, another really close, exciting game. Ended with Tuscaloosa County making a goal line stand to save a 2-point conversion and win the game. Once again, it was their defense that was really credited with getting them across the line and winning that game. Also worth noting, though, Northridge has a female kicker who kicked a couple extra points for them in that game.
I knew you'd work that.
Referees and officials are an often overlooked but absolutely essential part of sports at every level. I recently learned that we're facing a referee shortage here in the state of Alabama. Bob Shoulders has been a referee at every level, all the way from Little League to the SEC and the NFL. And he says it's not only a rewarding journey, but one that anyone can take if they're interested. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Shoulders, for being with us here today. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into officiating?
Well, it's kind of funny, Susan. I officiated some intramural sports at Auburn when I was in college, and a high school teammate of mine, had a father who was a very respected referee back in Birmingham, and when we got through with college, came back to Birmingham, my teammate and I ran into each other and we got to talking, and so he told his dad that I'd been doing some refereeing, and I got a call from his dad and he said, I'm gonna come pick you up, and you're going to a meeting with me Monday night. And he took me to a meeting that first summer of 1981, and I mean, yeah, it was the summer of '81, and I've been officiating in some form or fashion ever since.
Okay, well, tell me a little bit about the referee shortage and how that could affect sports at all levels in the future.
We're seeing it much more at the high school level. We became worried and were concerned to start out with, and so we tried to get a handle on what across the state we had in terms of numbers. And finally, about the middle of July, we had a pretty good handle that statewide we were going to be down about 15 to 20% maybe. In Birmingham, actually 2 of the 3 associations held their own pretty good with new folks coming in. One of the associations was down almost 50%. So we started trying to really develop some crash course training. We do a lot of training in the summer anyway, but we kind of changed how we trained and spent a lot more time with the less experienced officials, maybe first, second, third year official, to try to, we got them out on the field in scrimmages, and we did a lot of things with them, kind of hand-holding, feeding the basics to them to try to prepare them, because we knew they were going to have to be on the field, and they did. And so we recruited hard. Because some of the college conferences did not play, we were very fortunate, and some of those guys came back and got back doing high school this fall when they weren't doing their college schedules. So that was a help. But it's been a challenge on a week-to-week basis. We've done a lot more sharing between associations and districts when one area may have an abundance of games and maybe needed some assistance, and we've taken folks, and I even got back on the field myself after a number of years to help, and several of us that were directors have done that to help shore up and give some extra help on numbers.
So is being an official a full-time job? Is it something that people can do on the side and keep their regular job? Yeah,
and especially high school and really college too, it's strictly an on-the-side position. It's something that you get paid a little bit for it, but you've got to love what you're doing to do it. And it's fun. You develop some great friendships, some great stories. And then you're still involved in the sport that maybe you have a real fondness for.
Okay, so if people out there want to get involved in officiating and maybe get started on the path that you've been able to walk down, how do they get started?
Well, in Alabama, we're divided into 8 districts, and within those districts there are 2 to 3 to 4 separate associations. And you have to affiliate with one of those associations, which automatically puts you in a part of the state organization. And then those individual associations have a training schedule, meeting schedule, all through the season. And then the associations assign officials to both varsity and sub-varsity games during that season. There is at the Alabama High School Athletic Association website, there's a window, there's a tab that you can go to for officials and how to contact associations, and that will put you on the start and get you going.
Okay, great. Well, if you could just tell people one thing to really get them interested in becoming an official, what would it be?
Oh, that's a great question. You're given, especially for those of us who played the game, it's an opportunity to give back and to help promote the game that you really cared about. And again, you make some great friendships. You get involved with some things, and you actually do interact with the players a lot. So there are lessons that you can help teach the players. Everything's not always the way you want it to be. I try to develop a communication, a rapport with the players when I'm on the field. And because each one of us may be the only adult figure that they see that has some kind of structure or rules or those kinds of things that they may not be used to. So I try to help our guys to perform those responsibilities and duties with the players and the coaches in mind.
When we come back on High School Sports Weekly, presented by OS1 Sports Injury Clinic, we'll have a great comeback story from Hoover High School. Stay with us. OS1 Sports Injury Clinic in Hoover is a proud partner of High School Sports Weekly. OS1 has fellowship-trained sports medicine physicians right here in your community. There's no appointment needed. Just drive up to the door. They've got X-ray and MRI on site. So now, being injured or having an orthopedic issue doesn't mean you need to be exposed to sick people. Avoid the hassle and time of going to an ER when you can get more specialized care in a more timely fashion at OS1. Open 7 days a week to serve you. It's OS1 Sports Injury Clinic, and find them online at bettersooner.com. Welcome back to High School Sports Weekly. Of course, it's no small task to break a school record in any sport. But what about breaking one as a freshman? One that stood for 50 years. Now, most would think that starting their career out this way would mean the sky's the limit. But as Donette Logan found out, for one Hoover athlete, that new record was followed by hurdle after hurdle.
It's an accomplishment many would thrive for. Become the new man on campus, make the varsity track team, and then break a freshman record. That's exactly what Kyle Epperson did just 4 years ago.
I didn't do any event other than the 4x8 all season, and I just focused on the 32. I trained super hard for that, and the last meet of the season, I got it by 10 seconds.
To see that much potential as a freshman, of course, I have these big ideas of what he's going to accomplish, because setting the freshman record, he's beat 50 years worth of freshmen in that event.
But after that moment, one that should have been setting Kyle up for a record career at Hoover High School, things seemed to start falling apart with every obstacle he could imagine. Kyle suffered from a hamstring injury going into his sophomore year that sidelined him. And then when he returned, another obstacle. Kyle's times were slowing down more and more, and no one really knew why.
During practice, we could be running down the road or through trails, and about about a mile in, I could be running slow, but even at that point, and not far in, I'd have to lay down on the ground until I could actually get up again. And I'd have to have my friends wait on me and try to help me get myself together, but it was really frustrating.
After this happening over and over, Kyle returned to the doctor where he was told he had an iron deficiency, something that seemed so small but had a large impact on his career.
Well, if you don't have iron, your oxygen doesn't get to those muscles, and so you can try as hard as you want, but if your muscles can't get oxygen, you're not going to be going very fast. So it just drains you, and you just run slower and slower and slower, and you keep trying harder and harder, and you just get slower and slower. It can be very frustrating.
Kyle's hurdles away from the track weren't done yet. Kyle had undergone not one but 2 surgeries on a sinus cavity, something that kept him away from running once again.
After each surgery, it took about 2 weeks of no activities, no strenuous activities, and even after that, I couldn't do more than a mile or 2 at a time. I had to really take it easy.
When catastrophe happened the 3rd time, Kyle said it was hard not to stay down on himself and just give up. But he knew more now than ever he had recovered and needed to stay focused and return to the sport he loved. According to Coach Hine, Kyle might have been a little too eager to get back on the course.
When he would tell me what his goal was for a race, I'm like, Kyle, maybe we should think a little bit slower than that. Let's just baby steps.
Baby steps isn't something that is in Kyle's mentality.
This is great. I'm back on track. I'm better than I was as a freshman.
Not only did Kyle come back stronger than ever, His first cross-country meet of this year, he earned the spot as the #1 runner for Hoover High School this season, and his goals don't stop there.
Kyle is our lead runner on the varsity team, so he's come from way back. He's come from a non-scorer, JV, the last 2 years really, and he's our #1 runner. And we've had people move in that didn't know who Kyle was when Kyle was a freshman. I saw Kyle as a freshman, and I've just told them, you wait, if Kyle's healthy, you don't even know how good he is. And they're like, really? I'm like, yes, you just wait and see. So people are starting to get a picture of the real Kyle Epperson.
Freshman year, I only broke 17 minutes once, and that was my PR at state. And this is my first time in an official race where I did it, and I was like, okay, I'm off to a good start. It's not a PR, it's about 10 seconds off, but I think I can improve each meet, and eventually I'll get top in the state, close to top in the state.
Now Kyle is focused on setting new records his senior year and catching the eye of college scouts. In Hoover, Donette Logan, High School Sports Weekly.
OS1 Sports Injury Clinic in Hoover is a proud partner of High School Sports Weekly. OS1 has fellowship-trained sports medicine physicians right here in your community. There's no appointment needed. Just drive up to the door. They've got X-ray and MRI on site. So now, being injured or having an orthopedic issue doesn't mean you need to be exposed to sick people. Avoid the hassle and time of going to an ER when you can get more specialized care in a more timely fashion at OS1. Open 7 days a week to serve you. It's OS1 Sports Injury Clinic, and find them online at bettersooner.com.
Hey everybody, my name is Rachel Brown, and this is the NSR Recruiting Roundtable. Last time we talked about the importance of camps in the recruiting process and how to know if you are a camper or a true prospect. So this time I want to talk about another venue where you may be evaluated, and that's showcases. Showcases take place in every sport, and it's an opportunity to get in front of college coaches and showcase your skills. So there's a few things I want to talk about regarding showcase events. The first thing is that it can get a little expensive when you add up the cost of playing in the event, paying your dues to play on your team, the hotels, the food, the travel. All of that adds up and gets pretty expensive. So we've seen families spend as much as $40,000 just hitting the showcase circuit during a high school athlete's career. The second thing is, unlike camps where it's relatively small in attendance, showcases are known to have thousands of athletes at one event. So it's important that you're on that coach's watch list prior to the event. Otherwise, if you're going in hopes of being identified, you're probably going to be disappointed. Don't make the mistake of going into a showcase in hopes of being identified. Go in like my NSR athletes with the confidence that you are on that coach's radar and that they're going to use their limited evaluation time to watch you. If you have any questions about camps, showcases, or any other part of the recruiting process, please email me and I will make sure you get the answers that you need. Thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next time.
The high school postseason kicks off this week. Friday night will be a night full of action with Round 1 in 7A. James Clemens will host Hewitt Trustful at Madison City Schools Stadium. Hewitt finished the regular season 3rd in Region 3. Number 4 Oak Mountain will head to Austin, who won their first ever regional title 2 weeks ago. Number 2 Hoover will host Sparkman, and number 1 Thompson will host Grissom. Alabama High School Athletic Association Executive Director Steve Savarese has warned teams and fans against COVID fatigue as playoffs begin. State playoffs mean new rules for teams in order to follow COVID guidelines. That means a change in tickets and parking and limited attendance. Despite all the changes, Hoover's athletic director, Andy Urban, tells us all that they are doing their best to make things as easy as possible for fans.
Several things. One, there is no cash, so we'll take credit card through parking and at the gate. You can buy those early on GoFan if you want to buy your parking ticket. There are 2 separate links to buy those. Like in the regular season, we had 1 link you could buy all of those, but due to the playoffs, money going to the Alabama High School Athletic Association, that's a little bit different. Coaches' cards are only accepted from the 2 teams that are involved. So if you want to come watch the game and you're not from Hoover or Sparkman, you would have to buy a ticket as well.
And don't forget that masks are required at all games.
They are indeed. And speaking of games, a full slate, thankfully, going on around the state as we'll get things going in high school football playoff action. Let's take a look at what's going on in Class 7A. We'll start in the southern part of the state. Theodore and Enterprise meeting in a first-round matchup. Also Central taking on Fairhope. That is followed by Auburn and Baker, and then Daphne and Prattville before we get to our teams, Susan, starting with Thompson.
That's right, Thompson versus Grissom. Also James Clemens versus Hewitt-Trussville. Then we'll have Oak Mountain taking on Austin, and then Hoover versus Sparkman.
That's right, Hoover being at home for that first-round matchup, Spartan the visitor in that one. The higher-seeded teams getting the opportunity to play at home in the first round. We look forward to recapping all the first-round playoff action next week and looking ahead to week 2.
That's right. Everybody get out there, support your teams, be safe, and if you need to be reminded about any safety protocols, just visit the Alabama High School Athletic Association website. Please also continue to like and share our videos and pictures online.
We hope you'll do that, and we hope you'll join us next week on High School Sports Weekly, brought to you by OS1 Sports Injury Clinic.